All right, welcome everybody. What's new in cloud? My name is Richard. I'm going to spend the next 45 minutes or so giving you about 1,000 announcements that I expect you to all remember by the end of this. It's going to be great. So, ton happening in cloud. Hopefully you already got excited by other keynotes today. So we're going to jump right in and talk about, of course, what's new with AI. It's contractually obligated for me as an employee at Google to start with AI, so let's do that. What's new with models? What you'd be excited about here? I'm going to try to put these things in context, not just drown you in announcements, but what's interesting and new with models? Hey, look, if you're using something like Vertex, you're now sitting here with hundreds of curated foundation models, not just from Google, from great open models, great partners. So you really do have an amazing set of choices when you're using Google Cloud to pick your favorite model of choice, if that's somehow not Gemini. A lot of things in preview you saw today. Gemini 2.5 Pro is going to be coming GA shortly. Gemini 2.5 Flash coming soon. The live API, some amazing things you're seeing with the ability to do different types of interactions, kind of live with the model. VO3, that was amazing stuff I think we all saw, being able to create video with audio and other things, having that available on Vertex. Imagine 4, doing some remarkable things with images, Lyra with music, and of course now generally available, you have VO2 as well as Llama 4. We continue to bring models like Llama 4. This is as a service. You do not deploy this on infrastructure. You don't pay for unused capacity. You're literally just calling some of these open models, a number of them, just pay for the tokens, and that's all you pay for. So we're trying to make it easier and easier to use our best models as well as those from the community. Let's talk about Vertex AI. This is Google Cloud's AI platform. This is how you build models. This is how you build agents. This is how you train. This is how you do all sorts of interesting things. Let's talk about what's new in Vertex. Are you familiar with the optimizer? The optimizer is a great way to make sure that you can send in a request and actually rely on the service to pick the right model for your request. Might pick Flash, might pick Pro, but gives you some different ways to let the service actually decide what's the most cost-effective thing, what's the fastest thing for you. It's a really cool service. If you think about all the pre-training options you have with an LLM, we're trying to support all of these, and some of these in new ways. Of course, you can do things like supervised fine-tuning. This is where you can now use this with things like Gemini 2. But you get your own labeled data, and you want to take your data and make the model better, more contextual to you. Of course, you can do retrieval augmented generation, and we support this now with more models of how do you use external data to complement your model and give it more contextual responses. You can do full fine-tuning now with models, as you see here, some new ones supported, which is terrific, as well as in-context learning. This is being able to just pass in more things to long context. Gemini continues to have some of the best long context in the industry, so shove a bunch of data in there and get back really contextual responses. So making it easier and easier to make these models for you. How about the Vertex AI global endpoint? This is a really nice way, if you're not location sensitive, to say just put global in the URL and don't pick US Central 1 or US West 3. Like, you don't care about that. Just give me the most available performant work for my AI model, which is terrific. This doesn't work with everything if you do context caching and stuff, so read the fine print. But this gives you a really nice way to just say, I'm not location sensitive for this workload, just make it fast and easy. Agent builder. How do you build agents? We're all agent builders now, whether you want to be or not. It's exciting. So if you look at the family of things that we do now with agents, you might be developing agents. Of course, we're at a developer conference. How do I use some of the different tools, the agent development kit, which we'll be talking about? How do I do things in low code? Use the agent garden and use existing agents, or even see how you can integrate with other tools. How do you connect agents together? You've seen us embracing the Model Context Protocol, MCP. How do these agents talk to tools? How do they pull in really interesting things from outside of the system? Even the agent-to-agent protocol and others. How do you deploy this and run this? We now have Vertex AI Agent Engine, which we'll talk about. Run it on GKE, Cloud Run, all sorts of great places. And of course, day 2 matters. How do I do troubleshooting? How do I figure out observability? All of this thing is a family of things we call the Vertex AI Agent Builder, and you can mix and match however you'd like. Let's talk about the ADK. It's a very, very exciting project. We just hit 1.0 on Python today, which is exciting, but I'm actually really stoked that we shipped the first version of the Java ADK. So if you are a Java developer, you got Java developers in the room? It's okay to admit it. There we go. That's right, no shame. If you love Java, now you can actually build great agentic applications. This is a really sophisticated framework where you can do simple things or hard things, use session, do complicated multi-agent things. Really, really awesome. Docs are terrific. I know the people who wrote them. You should use them and read them. So exciting stuff if you are trying to use an open framework from Google where you can take that agent and run it anywhere. As you see, the agent development kit, and we'll see a demo shortly, but really if you just have instructions, a model, some tools, some of these components, you can really pull together an agent that involves no coding. You're doing very sophisticated things with honestly no code. What do I want to have the outcome be? What tools do you have available to you, and which models should I use? Plug in non-Gemini models, that's fine. Call tools that are outside of Google Cloud. Live your life, it's fine, it all works great. So this makes it really easy to build modern agents however you'd like to do it. And so use the agent development kit to build these sort of agents, test it locally, which is really powerful, a really sophisticated tool there, which we'll see in a second. Pick your models. You want to use something from Anthropic, you want to use something from Meta, like that's great, go for it. Now, if you don't want to do Python, nobody's going to judge you. Use Java, it's amazing. Pick that as well, whatever works for you. And then run this and connect to different services in different clouds thanks to this great tool support and MCP support. If you got to pull data from some other cloud's object storage, it's okay, do that. So one of the big things to take away here is look at ADK, look at ways that you can, all of us, can build agents. Now, it's great that you have MCP for how does an agent actually pull data from tools. Very important, everyone in the world is now using it. But how do the agents talk to each other? How do they share each other's capabilities or share state between each other? That's why Google created the agent-to-agent protocol along with a bunch of other companies. Microsoft adopted this last week, which is exciting. You're seeing more and more companies say this is a really powerful way to have agents talk to each other. Good protocol. Now we have an SDK for this in Python that we ship today as well. So you have an easier way to build these. So as you think of MCP for tools, A to A is how agents can communicate. Agent engine, where do you run these darn things? Well, you have a lot of choices. And so the Vertex AI agent engine gives you a fully managed service that can take your agent, run it, scale it, handle all the operational concerns, gives you some observability, gives you session management, really simple to use. Just today, we lit up the new dashboard. So it has a new dashboard if you're somebody like me who doesn't love using CLIs all the time. So it's great. So you have a new visual interface, great way to run services available today. An agent engine, again, is part of this ecosystem. There is no one thing that builds agents, right? Agents are part of how do you build this? You might use something like ADK. You might run this in something like Agent Engine. You might register it in something like Agent Space. You might access data in things like our databases or other tools or even Google Workspace services. So there's a whole ecosystem of things that come together when you're building agents. There's not just one tool. So I think this is a great way to represent it. With that, I just can't show you slides the whole time. I'd like to invite my friend Fran on stage to actually give you a live demo.
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Hi, friends. You want to see some code?
Yes.
Yeah, all right. Let's build an agent together. First thing we're going to do, pip install Google ADK. Super easy. Like Richard just said, we just released 1.0 today, so ADK is production ready. It follows our open source release guidelines now. You get a full year of OSS community support. And if Python is not your thing, use the Java SDK. But I'm sticking with Python today. All right, so we got it installed. A little bit of setup. You need an init file. You can just copy and paste it. Then you need an end file. I like to prototype with an API key, but I decided I'm not going to share my key today.
No? Low trust environment here? OK.
So I'm using the typical Google Cloud setup that you use to specify your project and your location. OK. Okay, so the agent I'm showing you is a data science agent. We're going to give it data, and it's going to do data science on it. First thing you do is import the ADK package. I'm using the agent, a few other things here. And then Richard was saying, oh, it's complicated. It's so straightforward. Like, there's barely any code in here.
I said it was sophisticated, and that's it was complicated. Goodness.
So agent constructor, you give it a model. ADK is model agnostic. I'm using Gemini. A name, instruction. Instruction is telling the agent what and how to do it. Like for this one specifically, I'm giving it instructions about not installing any packages because it's going to run some data science code. And I'm also telling it to not hallucinate because if we're doing data science, please no hallucination. So things you specify in instructions. And then an agent needs tools. A tool can really be anything, an API, data source, MCP server, LangChain package, or actually any Python code that you write. My agent is so simple, it's actually not even having any tools. I'm giving it a code executor, which is sort of a tool. It just goes into a different parameter in the constructor. So code executor is a code sandbox to execute arbitrary code, because we're going to be running some data science pandas code that the agent is building, creating for us so it can analyze our data. OK, with all that, we're ready to run it.
That's an agent, right? Like what you're showing us, that's the complete data science agent. You're just running some data science on it. All right.
The whole thing, import stuff, model instruction tools. The instructions can be a little longer, but that's really all there is to it. So we can run this, ADK web. And ADK comes with the super awesome dev UI for local testing. It's such a time saver. It supports multimodal inputs like images, voice, out of the box. So I can focus on the agent logic instead of worrying about infrastructure. All right, let's go localhost, pick our data science agent. I'm going to upload a CSV file. I could connect to a database, but I want to keep this simple. Please create a histogram for me. So the agent is off working now, and you can actually see it's generating pandas code here. So we've all gotten questionable answers from LLMs where they make things up. And I give you data, and I say, do data science on it. I don't want anything made up. And I want to stress here, the agent is not making up the graph. The agent is creating the code that then deterministically creates this histogram. Like, that's super important. Like, yes, you always double check what your LLM is giving you, but I would trust this picture, because if the code is good enough to give me a graph, then it's probably right, and it's fully relying on the data. This is not a made-up LLM image based on the next token. The code is made up, but the image is real. What do you think, Richard?
Why is it blue?
You don't like blue?
Can you? I mean, it's Google I/O. Can you Google it up a little bit?
We can spice it up. So let's say, let's give it the I/O colors. Let's get some color in here. I could go back, put this in the instructions, so my agent would always be colorful. No. Use all colors, please.
It's a lot of pressure right now, Fran.
OK, it's a little more colorful.
Yeah, that's a golf clap.
Yeah. But you can, just like I just told in a chat message, somewhat successful, you can just put that in your instructions, and now every histogram would be nice and colorful and I/O branded. My data science agent was super straightforward. I showed you the whole code. There's only so much code I can show on a big screen, especially after lunch when the sun is shining. But you can go as complex as you want to go. Multi-agent collaborations, custom workflows, and of course, ADK supports MCP, the Model Context Protocol, out of the box, in addition to tons of other tools.
Awesome. You're vibe graphing. Where can I go deploy this agent?
Where can you deploy it? You're saying, works on my machine is not quite good enough. Yeah, testing locally is not realistic for anything production or anything you work on with other people. This is just great for testing things out locally. But ADK is an open source Python library. You can deploy it wherever you want.
Great.
I like Cloud Run. GKE is a good option. And of course, Vertex's Agent Engine is a good spot for agent. Agent Engine is a fully managed auto-scaling service on Google Cloud that's specifically designed for agents. So I suggest go build an agent that makes your life easier and deploy it to the cloud. Back to you, Richard.
Thanks, Fran. Great job. Yeah, and those ADK deployment options aren't even just do-it-yourself. Actually, from the CLI, you can ADK deploy to Cloud Run, and Agent Engine, and things like that. So we have made that pretty easy. All right. We're not done with agents. No, we are not. Let's talk about agent space a little bit. So when you think about what's the right way to take some of these agents and put these interfaces in there? It's not going to be that web interface, most likely. How do you serve up agents to users? How do you make them available to folks? Agent space is for your employees, your people to take the advantage of Google quality search, agents that connect to employee directories, third-party systems, Box, Dropbox, all these sorts of systems, databases, your email, others. How does this make it easier to pull all that information in and actually make things like an intranet feel useful? And so this is almost like an enterprise operating system, your homepage. How do I work better in your environment? Agent space can take third-party agents, can take agents you build, can take out-of-the-box agents. Really, really neat way to serve this up to your employees and make this something they can interact with. And of course, this runs on the same Google infrastructure that billions of folks around the world depend on, so you know that we focus a ton on security here and scale and availability. Let's talk about the AI Edge. You got a bit of a tease on some of these things in some of the announcements today, but 3 things I wanted to point out. First, there's that Gemma 3N model. This gives you a remarkably small, high-performing model that you can run on mobile devices. Again, you could run it on your own laptop. Really, really powerful, available now, or you can take a look at that. More model support for the light RT Hugging Face community as you have more models you can take advantage of on your mobile devices. And then finally, even being able to do on-device retrieval augmented generation, bringing more functionality to what you can do locally on a mobile device is pretty exciting stuff. So stay tuned to this space. A lot of innovations happening in small places. What's new for app developers? This is the part I get even more excited about, as a lot of us are at least pretend developers or real developers. What are we excited about? What's new here in cloud for us? Gemini Code Assist is our flagship coding assistance tool that you can use with Google Cloud and get code completion, generation, training on your own code base, long context, amazing stuff. This is free for individual use today. Any of you can use it. But we've also made available Code Assist tools. How do I reach out from my coding environment to Google Docs, GitHub, GitLab, other places, so I don't have to leave my IDE to maybe validate something in my spec or pull information about my latest Jira ticket? So all of these tools make it really straightforward to pull in some really, really popular systems into your IDE wherever you're coding. Example from my machine, of course, as we look at the sort of tools that I have access to and you have access to. This is something we can all reach into, whether those are security systems or work systems or databases. You have access to a bunch of things. And we're also bringing more agents to this environment, like everyone else is, of how do I use agents to build better software? And so we're taking this across the software development lifecycle. How do you help with coding, with testing, with documentation, and other things like that? We're at this in private preview today, but you're seeing more and more coding agents coming to this environment as well, including a GitHub agent today that can do code reviews on your pull requests. How about Firebase Studio? I think there we go. What's new in Firebase is coming up after this. I won't steal all their thunder. But there's some really exciting stuff here for people who want to go jump now. Free workspace, not now, we're having fun, wait till after this. But go use your free workspace, build end-to-end applications, use AI for text to app, have a full environment for local emulation and testing, build a Go backend or a web front end or a Java backend, and now use features like the integration with Builder for Figma, being able to turn things into working apps. Use the new Firebase Logic, which is this evolution of being able to use AI systems behind the scenes. So really, really great platform as you're looking at doing end-to-end application development. Here's my environment, as I've been vibe coding like a madman lately, so it's good stuff. But as you all get free access to a number of workspaces to build here, again, you can go text to app, or you can go full-on coding workspace, save it, come back to it the next day, the next week. Online IDEs, online dev environments are an amazing way to go. Let's show a little bit of stuff here. So let's see this live right now. Some of our favorite new things. Let's bring Fran back up here. Thank you, Fran. Let's see code assist. What you got?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Vibe coding. How's the vibe? Are we enjoying I/O? Yeah. Okay. All right, we're not actually going to live code, but I'm going to show you a few tips and tricks in Gemini Code Assist that are going to make your next live coding session a lot better. So Gemini Code Assist, you install it as an extension in VS Code. You all know how to do that.
Or JetBrains IDEs.
Or JetBrains, yep. And OK, I want to show you the tools integration in Code Assist, like Richard said. So if you do add, you see all the different tools. Pretty much anything that's an API can be used as a tool. There's a bunch of them out of the box. We're going to use Google Docs.
Good choice.
Everybody loves Google Docs. And then I can do whatever I can do with an LLM with Google Docs. Like I can say, hey, what documents do I have? So this is really nice. I don't have to leave my IDE to do anything. Should I do this one?
Yeah, I really want to know what's in there.
OK, so there's a PID, product requirement document for a Java application. And there's a task in there that need to be implemented. So I'm going to use the tools integration to say, hey, Google Docs, summarize the PID for Java Task Manager file. So this way, I don't even have to leave the IDE, read the doc, understand it. I just have Gemini read it and summarize it for me. And it says, OK, it's an initiative, update Java to 21, update Spring Boot, migrate away from some deprecated stuff. Well, let's just migrate away. Let's upgrade to modern Java here.
Wow.
And as Gemini is working, if you can see it here, it's upgrading my POM. You can only see parts of it, but suggesting lots of changes. No work from me. I told it, hey, read the requirements doc. I told it, hey, do what's in the doc, and we're done. We've upgraded.
Yeah. You can still bill 8 hours of work, though. It's OK.
Shh, don't tell my boss.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, the next thing I want to show you is custom rules. So they're like system instructions, but for Code Assist. Yeah, let's just implement one. So open the settings, Command-Shift-P, open settings, search for Gemini rules. And here I can set different rules. And what I want to do is always generate unit tests. That's a good practice, right? So instead of putting the sentence after all of my prompts, sometimes forgetting it, I put it in the rules, and now everything I do with Code Assist is super customized to my preferences and the style that I have to follow for my code base.
Nice. Very responsible.
So no more yelling at me about forgetting tests. So let's try this out. Let's just say add a feature to find a duration of incomplete tasks. OK, it's giving us sources here. And then further down, more code, more code, more code, more code. OK, and here's a bunch of test files. So made it super easy. I don't have to remember that that's one of the things I want to do. Put systems instructions in custom rules and a config. Much easier to prompt. OK. And the last thing, it's not rocket science. It's not even machine learning, but it's like absolutely my favorite thing. So I don't know about you, but I spend quite a bit of time of refining my prompts. And a lot of times I want to go back to something I did a week ago or see the response. But I restarted my machine over VS Code, and all these super smart answers and really good prompts that I came up with are gone. Code Assist, if you go up here to the little history icon, you get a history of all your chats, even if you restart. So now I can go back and be like, what was I doing last week? What was the answer? How did I write that prompt? And I can see all my prompts. I love it. I think that's something you need to know if you use Gemini Code Assist.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much, Fran.
OK, thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, so you can use this today in the enterprise with a subscription. You can use it free for individuals today with remarkably high usage limits that unless you're a robot, you'll never hit. So take advantage of it and use it for fun. Let's talk about a few more things for app developers. How do you design architectures? How do you design systems? Sometimes the cloud can feel like a pile of infrastructure, right? It's a user role, it's a storage bucket, it's a bunch of Kubernetes services, Cloud Run services, databases. It's hard to organize it all. So Application Design Center is part of these set of tools we've built that actually makes it possible to visually model a system, deploy that system, and then even be able to operate that thing as an application. And so this is a really great way to be able to design using a number of different Google Cloud services, connect things together, share this with other people. You can save these templates, share it with your teammates. They can then one-click deploy a certain application architecture right to production. This makes it a lot easier to do canonical definitions and share them with your team. And then again, deploy them as apps and manage them as apps and troubleshoot them as apps. The cloud has been way too infrastructure-centric for too long, and Google's building an app-centric cloud in, I think, a pretty unique way. Now then, how do you manage that, though? So at the same time, we've introduced Cloud Hub, now in preview, that you can access. This gives you a way to get, again, an app-centric lens on operations. So if you're an app owner, this might be your homepage. Maybe I'm assuming too much. But it's kind of cool if you could come in every day and see what's the health of my application? When was my last deployment? Even what was the cost of my application in dev, test, and prod? What is the most expensive service in my application? This has been hard to do. You've had to do complex FinOps and processing invoice stuff. What if you just as an application owner can see the health, optimization, finance information for your app? So you're starting to see these things stitched together and help you as an app developer model architecture and deploy it effectively. And then there's Gemini Cloud Assist, which is in preview, continues to be lit up in different parts of Google Cloud. This is giving you ability to do design, like you can with the Design Center, troubleshooting, even help you do optimization, saying, hey, I want to right-size this instance. Here's a screenshot from my environment that's doing investigations. So whenever you get something in your logs going, I don't know what this is, there's an investigate button that kicks up Cloud Assist, does an AI-based investigation that looks at everything else in your app, looks at other logs, looks at other services, and in a matter of seconds, gives you a bunch of different observations and then a couple hypotheses. Hey, maybe you should fix this. Hey, you're out of memory here. This might literally save you hours or days, as we've talked to customers who spent so much time trying to figure out what went wrong where. This is immediately doing an AI surgical investigation to bubble up what matters most. Some of my favorite things we just shipped today are around Cloud Run. Cloud Run is still probably the easiest way to get code running in the cloud anywhere. And so there's 3 things you should be aware of that you might have seen earlier today. From Google AI Studio, you can build an application now, whether it's with text or with code. One click, deploy it to Cloud Run. That's amazing. It's awesome. Yeah, that deserves applause. That's you all deserve nice things. There's also no Cloud Run MCP server. And so I tried this out as well. I can drop this into Cursor or other tools, and then from those tools, immediately say, hey, just deploy my app to Cloud Run. Immediately knows how to do it. It works great. And so this MCP server can drop into environments and just make everything aware of how to work with Cloud Run. And then we've also made it easy, if you want to use open models, you can go from Gemma 3 with one click in AI Studio to deploy an instance of Gemma 3 on Cloud Run with its GPUs, with its scale to 0, with its scale to many. What a great way to take open models and immediately host them at an endpoint that's very elastic and doesn't overcharge you. So Cloud Run continues to be one of the nicest tools to use for public cloud. And now there's a really nice set of ways to push more code there. And as part of that too, look, application developers, I don't know, do you love security topics? No hands go up. Security is, yeah, stop it. Yeah, the security guy. Most normal people do not like security stuff. But it's super important. And so I like that we've shipped a number of new unified security offerings, new ways to have integrations and security in Chrome, a number of great things for actually helping you troubleshoot. So while this might not be the most interesting stuff, your business lives or dies based on your security posture. And so I love how much we're baking in responsible security services into the cloud. What's new for data, folks? MCP Toolbox for databases. How do you make it really easy to connect to all these different data services? This is an open source project. It doesn't just include Google Cloud databases, but this makes it really, really straightforward to bring these databases into your applications, AI systems, whatever, by all with a kind of a common contract. without having to code to each different database. This makes them all act uniformly for you. Again, Google Cloud options as well as third-party options. Very, very exciting here. Firestore is an amazing database. Serverless scales remarkably well. And so now with Firestore with MongoDB compatibility, you're really getting a MongoDB type instance that you don't have to worry about sharding, you don't have to worry about scaling, you don't have to worry about any of those pieces. Yeah, there we go, some applause in the back. MongoDB has a great interface, but there's still a lot of operational work to really manage these sort of systems, keep them balanced properly. And so by offering this on Firestore, you get kind of the best of Mongo, but with the best of one of the best cloud databases available. Database Center. How do you actually manage fleets of databases? If you have one database, you can tune out for the next 10 seconds. But if you have 2 or 200 or 2,000, how do I know when I have to do upgrades? How do I know the health of them all? This works now with all of the Google Cloud databases, whether it's Spanner or Firestore or AlloyDB or Cloud SQL or Memory Store. Make it really, really simple to get a global view of what's going on with my databases, which ones have hotspots, which ones need help. This is a great interface that you can all use today. BigQuery, a lot's going on with BigQuery. This team is cooking right now. So BigQuery AI, this engine, making it easier and easier to do AI operations, natural language within BigQuery. Gemini and BigQuery, this is giving you code completion, not just for SQL, but even for Python. Explain code, do a number of optimizations. This is a really powerful way to kind of use AI to just make it easier to manage BigQuery. Multimodal tables, being able to interact with tables even though they might be storing binary objects and other things or images, all doing it easy within BigQuery. Vector search, every database needs vector search at Google Cloud nowadays. Let's make it simple to be able to do that directly from BigQuery, create vector stores, access the data there, read embeddings, and so forth. And then even AI-assisted notebooks. When you're doing things with notebooks in BigQuery, get that assistance in cells, help you understand how to build and optimize that notebook. So you're seeing a ton of things here just to make it easier to use BigQuery. Let's talk about governance. BigQuery governance, a set of tools to help you, and the dashboards to help you actually manage and understand all of your data. There's a cool business glossary helping you have common terms used across your organization. You can export your metadata to cloud storage and use that for other purposes there as well, which is neat. Also being able to do at-scale categorization, be able to look at all of your different objects and be in cloud storage, be able to turn that into observable metadata. And even manage disaster recovery. How do I do proper failover? How do I make sure that if I have something and a whole region goes offline, I can be available elsewhere? So powerful things across BigQuery if I'm running it, if I'm building notebooks, if I'm trying to understand queries, this product continues to make it kind of a one-stop shop for data science and analytics. As well as if you're doing things with third-party systems, we've been embracing Apache Iceberg, making it simpler and simpler to use Iceberg tables in BigQuery. Serverless Spark. I'm taking advantage of Spark directly within BigQuery and not even having to manage infrastructure to do that more sophisticated analysis. And even the Metastore, being able to do more things here to access and centralize data, whether that's in BigQuery, Apache Spark, Apache Iceberg, having a common view of my data across those places. And of course, making BigQuery easier to spend and do more work with it. If I think about continuous queries, I love this functionality. Every time data is coming into BigQuery, you can actually have this sort of query running real time on the streaming data coming in. Maybe you're augmenting it. Maybe you're looking for anomalies. You can actually deploy these queries that sit there at the edge of BigQuery and run on all the data coming in. Or using history-based query optimization. What have you been doing with BigQuery? Use that whole history. BigQuery will automatically help tune and optimize based on what you've been doing, the data you've been accessing. Pipe syntax. Who loves writing SQL code? I don't know, many of you. There's no shame there. Maybe you want to live life, live on the edge, use pipe syntax. Whole new way now to do querying, which if you're a Unix person, you might like the sort of pipe syntax for passing data around and commands from operation to operation. This is now GA. And analytics and geospatial. Be able to work more with maps data and others from within BigQuery. So again, can we keep you in one place where you don't feel like you're bouncing all over the place to do sophisticated work cost effectively? You can with BigQuery. And then finally, a couple things left with Looker and BigQuery. How do we use conversational analytics? How do I talk to my data? Not in a weird way, but how do I have more of a natural language relationship with this data so that I don't have to understand all of the weird joins and group bys that might be necessary? And then using spectacles, this is another nice way of actually using LookML and doing almost CI/CD for some of my Looker dashboards and doing real delivery of even dashboards and a proper engineering practice. So again, some cool integrations here if you're building dashboards with BigQuery and Looker. What's new with infrastructure? A lot of stuff. A lot of stuff's going on here. There's even some whistles going on. Cloud WAN in a wide area network. How do you take advantage now of Google's network backbone for your WAN? Right? I mean, how do we stretch almost treating a continent like your LAN in this world? So how do I take advantage? You can now ride on the Google network even at this level. Available in preview. There's some great architectures here our team's been publishing on the Google Cloud blog. Understand more and more about this service. This could be a big deal for you. Cloud Run GPUs. You can get GPUs on your serverless instance. That's unbelievable. So when you're serving up models, AI workloads, doing inference, the fact that I can get a bunch of GPUs on demand, that you can go from 0 to model in like 5 seconds on Cloud Run, scale up to 1,000 instances, that's amazing. That's awesome. So this is now available, generally available with absolutely no quota requests. Up until now, you had to give a PM stare and like a secret handshake and a 20. Not anymore. It's a 50 now. But also not necessary. All of you can get in there, no quota request. Yeah, there we go. No quotas. DNS armor. How do I, again, have different types of, cloud's amazing, AI's amazing, all these things are amazing, but you also want to have better protection. And how can I take advantage of things like DNS protection, making sure people aren't spoofing me, attacking me over DNS, being able to use DNS armor as a service. This is coming soon. But we're just providing model armor, DNS armor, a bunch of services that are making it much, much simpler to do robust security. But that's so much on you. Let Google do more of this work for you. The GKE inference gateway. If I'm using GKE to serve models, right? I'm using GKE to serve open models, Gemma, whatever, Llama, Mistral, whatever. If I'm serving up models, how can I use a gateway here? This is now available in preview to do things like intelligent routing or be able to help me pick the right model that I want to use for each one. How do I use this to do better observability? This is a great component, also sitting in the open space, but we've really operationalized it well in GKE. So if you're serving open models, look at the inference gateway. It's a really, really smart way to direct traffic and manage the workloads. GKE team, all right. Gemini on Google Distributed Cloud. I didn't think we would ever do this, so this is pretty cool. We are taking our flagship AI and making it available on premises for you with Google Distributed Cloud, either connected, meaning it has a tether back to Google Cloud, or air-gapped, sitting in a particular remote environment or sensitive environment where it can't connect to the internet. You can also get Gemini on that. So this will be coming soon, but this is more and more of us making sure that you have the best technology available regardless of where you are. This just got announced this morning, which is pretty exciting. So if you're using Kubernetes, again, and you're doing things like VLLM for inference, very popular library, how do you do this in a distributed fashion? How do you do this across clusters, across different environments? This is a new project along with Red Hat and IBM and CoreWeave and others that we've made this possible to stretch this across infrastructure on Kubernetes. So if you're doing inference, you're using VLLM, now you have a really great option supported by the industry players. Ironwood, great name. This is a new 7th generation TPU, amazing performance. This is also coming soon. Every iteration of TPUs, we continue to see great energy usage, terrific performance, things like that. So you're seeing some things that are serving the foundation, things like TPUs. This is what Google trains and serves Gemini on. You being able to access these in GKE and other places. You continue to get great performance at great price. So I drowned you in announcements today. I don't even think I hit them all. But the important thing is, look, you're going to take away a few things. First off, we're innovating in the model space. How are you getting absolutely amazing performance from these models, multimodal interactions? That's amazing. So you want foundationally amazing models in tech, but then how do you build on top of it? You saw Fran demonstrate what we're doing with ADK, using MCP, A to A, a lot of 3-letter acronyms. But how do you use all these different tools and then Gemini Code Assist on top and the databases we have to build really awesome software? Again, the models are amazing, but you're not going to sell the model. You're selling really awesome technology that takes advantage of that. So how do you build amazing software we've got now for Java, for Python, MCP for lots of folks? How do you make sure you're building the best stuff? And then how do you use all of these data, AI, agent space, other services to make sure that your systems are robust? You have BigQuery for analytics, amazing infrastructure that can be tapped into. So amazing models, build great AI applications or just applications in general, and then take advantage of these great ancillary services, whether that's data, analytics, security, infrastructure, that make you be able to do better things. So we're excited about the future of cloud. We're doing a great partnership with NVIDIA. So as this new program we'd like to announce. Yeah, so build some of this expertise, get some great perks, get some access. You can now partner up if you're building things with NVIDIA on Google Cloud, which is amazing. And then sign up for the Google Developer Program. There's no cost. Again, Cameron will take tips, but for the most part, it's free. You can get in here, you get newsletters from us, you get early access, you get more access to things like Firebase workspaces, you get all kinds of great things. Sign up for this program, you even get spammed with a newsletter from me every week. So that's a detractor, that won't make you sign up. But overall, good stuff. Get involved, learn stuff here, get hands-on in the stations. But this is one of the most exciting times of my career to be around technology, be able to build. Let's not waste it. Let's actually do some amazing things with technology and hopefully with us. Thank you very much.
Welcome everyone here at Shoreline and everyone tuning in on the live stream to What's New in Firebase. We're here to get everyone up to speed on all of the great new things in Firebase that help you build, test, deploy, run, and monitor your applications easily. I'm Aja, Director of Developer Relations and Developer X, and
I'm Seba, Director of Engineering for Developer X Frameworks and Services. So before we go too far in, let's make sure everyone knows what Firebase is. Who here has heard of Firebase? Come on, raise your hand, don't be shy. Come on. Who here has used Firebase? Good, good. What about Firebase Studio? Let's make some noise, come on. What about other Firebase services? Sweet. So Firebase is Google's platform to prototype, build, deploy, and run modern AI-powered experiences your users love. What makes Firebase so special? Well, you know very well. First, it's a comprehensive platform. Second, it's very easy to get started. We gave you a well-lit path for you to accomplish your goals. And then, there is no need to hack together a solution from 2 blog posts and 3 online forums. But we don't stop there. Firebase is backed by GCP's infrastructure, security, and reliability, and it's used by millions of businesses around the world. Most importantly, it's extensible and flexible. That means that you can decide which parts of the platform makes the most sense for you, and then bring the tools and services you need. As some of you know, we have an extensive portfolio of products. Today, we're going to focus on what's new since the last time we met at Next 6 weeks ago. Ash and I organize the content around the steps you follow to launch your applications. Prototype and build, test, deploy, and run.
so we're going to start with the prototype and build stage because, well, that's where most applications and projects start. And the big news in the prototype and build stage, next slide, is Firebase Studio, which, you know, awesome product. There we go. We launched that at Next, and in the weeks since then, we have had 1.5 million workspaces created. That is a lot of amazing applications. Seba, what's the coolest thing you've seen?
Oh, I've seen hundreds of applications from developers of many kinds, from an expense management tool to a car racing game, from a storytelling app to an app that allows you to learn how to speak Japanese.
I loved that one. I loved all the really cool language learning apps that people came up with. A kanji learning one to practice your conversational language. It's been amazing.
You know what my favorite one is?
What?
I'm going to geek out a little bit. There is one that we built that uses the power of Gemini to learn to let kids learn quantum physics.
Ooh,
That's pretty impressive.
neat. So
for those that haven't heard of it, Firebase Studio is our cloud-based AI workspace. With Firebase Studio, you can use AI to create and modify highly functional apps, just using prompts, or jump into code mode, thanks to the power of a full extensible IDE based on CodeOS and an underlying VM. In addition to AI-driven app creation, we have a set of agents that help you through the SDLC tasks, including testing and documentation, which are in private preview.
So I can use Firebase Studio to build Go services and Python backends too, right?
You got it.
Okay.
There are more than 60 templates for common languages and frameworks, including Python, Kotlin, Angular, Flutter, and more. And we are always working to add in more of them. And if you can find a template that works for you, Firebase Studio is highly customizable, allowing you to create a development environment with the packages and tools you need.
So in the last 6 weeks, we've added many requests from the community to Firebase Studio. First of all, in early May, we incorporated Gemini 2.5, which enables Firebase Studio to create more complex apps with much more sophisticated UI. Second, as you heard just a couple hours ago, we've added back-end integrations with Firestore and Firebase Auth. And so when you're prototyping your applications, it will understand if this application needs a database or auth, set up any required local environments so that you can test your application locally, and then when it comes time to deploy, it will automatically provision and configure those services for you. We started rolling out that feature this week, and it will be rolling out to the rest of the community over the next several weeks.
So your application look and feel is extremely important. We heard from users that you wanted to bring Figma designs into Firebase Studio to kickstart your building. So we partnered with Builder.io to let you do so. We also added significant improvements for working with app designs and layouts that include images. For example, we added features around placeholder images and the ability to use Gemini in runtime to generate image content.
But words are easy. So we're going to actually prove it and do a demo live. Cross your fingers for me, folks. So let's switch to the demo. Here I am in Firebase Studio home screen, and like Seba said, there's all these templates here, Go, Python, and many, many, many more that you can start from, and that's just a small selection of them. But I'm going to prototype with AI today, and I want to build a game. I want to build a game in Go. Wait. We have a programming language called that. I should probably be slightly more specific, huh? Go game. Let's see how that works. So the first step of prototyping with AI is that Firebase Studio gives you a blueprint. You can think of this as a specification, a PRD, a technical design document, and more, all rolled into one. And it lays out a name for the app and also the features it believes that you want. And this is a place where you can iterate back and forth with the AI before any code is written to make sure that the app is the one you want to build. For this, we've got a board display. You got to put your Go stones on the board, some stuff around capturing, move validation so I can't cheat, and then AI hint generation that'll help me learn how to play Go better, because I'm really, really, really bad at this game. It also lays out the stack we're going to use, including GenKit and Gemini, TypeScript, Next.js, Tailwind, CSS, and it picked these lovely, very calm neutrals that evoke a Go board for the colors for the app. So normally I'd hit prototype this app right now, but we have a ton of content we need to get through, so I'm actually going to switch to one I did earlier. But to prove that I am not doing any funny business here, I'm going to scroll up, and you can actually see my entire prompt history in Firebase Studio. That's one of the features we have. So you can look at your prompts, and you can see this is the prompt that I created this app with just a couple hours ago. So exact same app. There's a slight bit of difference because there's a little bit of difference because we're using generative AI. So let's try it out. Let's open it in a new window, and let's put some stones on. That seems to work pretty good. Let's see what the AI has to say. It thinks I should move at A3 and gives me a whole bunch of reasons about it. Oh, pretty good. Considering it was a 2-word prompt, I'm pretty happy. But that's not the cool part of Firebase Studio for me. The magic trick is fun, but the cool part for Firebase Studio for me is that at any point, I can switch over to code mode, which means if I want to do a code review, if I want to manually add some features, if I want to integrate with a library that's custom to my company, I can do it all here. I have right here our GenKit flows for suggesting that move, giving that tips it wants. And I can actually look at this code and try to understand it, or when it comes up, I can have Gemini explain this to me. And all of this is available to me at any moment. You can see all of the code is here. You can see all of the different code that goes into the app. And it will also give me the web preview, which is just taking a moment to load right now. There's my game. So I can see it here, and there's my Gemini window. So I have full access to Gemini interactive chat for adding features, getting access to reference documentation just in time, asking questions about APIs, adding features to my product. All of it's available. Now, it's not perfect, but I'm pretty happy with it, so let's publish. And I'm going to actually do this live on stage. So we're going to create a rollout. This is going to push to Firebase Studio. And it's going to do a proper rollout. We're going to do a build of static assets. We're going to push those static assets to CDN. This isn't, just a little bit of a rollout. This is a real production-grade rollout. So this actually takes a couple minutes. And as I said, plenty of content to get through today. So we're going to come back to this at the end of the presentation when we get to the deploy stage of our SDLC loop. And we're going to see how it works, and we're going to show you some of the features Firebase Studio offers you after you've deployed. Back to the slides.
Let's go back to slides. Aja, that's super cool. I might finally learn how to play Go. I'm really, really excited to use your app. So we recognize that bringing AI into your apps can be challenging. A year ago, we launched Vertex in Firebase, making it a lot easier, and it's already used by thousands of customers in production. Today, we're evolving Vertex in Firebase into Firebase AI Logic. Thank you. Firebase AI Logic is one of the easiest ways to integrate, innovate and deploy AI seamlessly in your apps. In addition to the Vertex API, you can now use Firebase AI Logic Client SDKs to connect with the Gemini Developer API, which has a free tier. Also, we are launching experimental support for hybrid inference on Chrome browsers. You can decide whether you want to run inference locally using Gemini Nano or in the cloud. And last but not least, we are launching Unity support, including support for Android XR. We are also expanding AI monitoring, which was also previously only available for GenKit, to let you monitor AI logic client SDKs. In a single pane of glass, you can see things such as latency, error rates, tokens used, and event traces. But we didn't stop there. Aja, can you tell us more?
Of course I can. So one of the other pieces of Firebase AI logic is GenKit. GenKit, if you're not familiar, is our open source toolkit for building powerful AI backends. It offers libraries, tools, and out-of-the-box integrations for many popular models and cloud services. And the community has given us a ton of feedback on GenKit, and I'm happy to say that we've heard you, and we're thrilled to deliver the things that you've been asking for. At Next, we officially launched Python support in GenKit, and we've been working hard at refining that and also improving our Go support over the last several weeks. But that's not all. We've introduced dynamic model registration, which means you no longer need to wait for a GenKit update to use the latest models. And today, we're excited to announce genkit.dev. This is your new go-to site for the most up-to-date documentation, code examples that you need to effectively use GenKit in your applications. So, awesome. Such a happy audience. So that's AI in the back end, but backends have other needs too, like storing data. What do we have for people who need to store data, Seba?
Well, almost every app needs a database. And you've been asking for a Firebase relational database for a while. We heard you loud and clear, and a year ago, right here at I/O, we announced Firebase Data Connect. Firebase Data Connect connects your application to data in Cloud SQL for Postgres through secure serverless APIs. We build Data Connect on one premise. You write the query, we do the rest. But what does it mean? For every query you write, we create an API and endpoint. We define an auth policy for that endpoint. We generate a strongly typed SDKs in languages such as Kotlin, Dart, Swift, and Node.js. And we create tool definitions in case you want to use your queries as tools with an LLM. This significantly accelerates development and reduces time to value. At Next, we announced Firebase Data Connect GA. And today, we are releasing 2 new exciting features. The first one is advanced query improvements. Now, you can perform more sophisticated data retrievals with transactions that support additional server values and multi-step capabilities. And the second one is schema and query generation agent. When you're looking to incorporate Firebase Data Connect into your app, Gemini will turn your app idea into schemas, queries, and mutations. This agent is available in the Firebase Console and Firebase Studio, as well as in the VS Code extensions for Gemini Code Assist and Data Connect. Let's check it out really quick. Let's jump to this laptop. There you go. So here I'm in the Firebase Console. I'm building, let's say I'm building an application for TV show reviews, right? And I want to add Data Connect. So instead of having to think, OK, I'm building a TV show's review app, what are the entities I need, how they relate to each other, and most importantly, how I configure that in Data Connect using GraphQL, I can use the power of Gemini and the power of our Data Connect agent just to prompt what I'm trying to build. So I'm going to tell our Data Connect agent that app that helps track user reviews for TV shows. Let's see what happens. So by this is Gemini, right now the agent is analyzing my prompt. It's figuring out, OK, what are the entities that I need to do exactly what I've been asked, and configuring the schema. And here it is. I have the visual version on the left, and I have the GraphQL version here on the right. So let's say what we have. We have a user, we have a TV show. The TV show has episodes. That's pretty smart. User can watch TV shows, and then user can review episodes that they have watched. That's pretty impressive. So let's say I want to do something else. Let's say I want to track the cast for each episode, such as actors, producers, and directors. Let's see what we have. The agent is thinking through the process, understanding my prompt, using the previous schema context, using the context of the full application. Boom. It made the changes. Let's see what new attributes it added. So now I have a crew member that has a name and a role and a bio and a photo URL. Gemini is pretty smart. And then it has, so that crew member is related to an episode. And it added a feature so users can follow each other. So the next step is I'm going to deploy this schema. This will automatically generate my Cloud SQL instance. It's provisioning the schema, it's provisioning the data sources. So this might take a second. And here we are. Now we have a live database with the schema for our TV shows review app. What is the next step? I need to add operations, things as retrieving data, modifying data. I don't need to do that manually anymore. If I go to operations, I can also use Gemini and our agent to generate those operations. So I click a button, and Gemini will automatically understand the context of the application, understand the schema, and suggest some of them. For example, add the TV show to the list, get the TV show, create a list, update the list. So let's say I want to create a new one. So I create that, and using natural language, I can define the operation I want. So for example, give me all the episodes for a cast member using part of the name and role as parameters. Voila. Now I have a method that takes part of the name, it takes the role, and it generated, and the agent created the GraphQL definition for that query. So let's edit. I'm getting ambitious here. Let's edit. Let's do the one last edit. Add the TV show data, because right now I only have the data for the episodes. And here it is. It added the data for the TV shows. Pretty impressive, right? All right. That's all I have for now. Let's go back to slides.
So another thing that developers have told us that they struggle with is verifying phone numbers for users of their applications. And today we're talking about Firebase phone number verification, which is an exciting update for any developer currently using SMS and one-time codes in order to validate phone numbers. Firebase phone number verification moves end users from an SMS-based workflow that is somewhat error-prone because they have to type in their phone number and then they have to type in the code you gave them, to a method where, with their permission, you can verify the phone number directly with the carrier. So way less copying and pasting, way fewer steps, way less chances of errors. Firebase phone number verification is coming this summer, starting with Android, and both iOS and web support are planned after Android. If you want to know more, or you want to give us feedback on what regions we should start with, you can scan the QR code to find out more about the program and give us that feedback. So, got a bunch of devs in the audience. What comes after prototype and build? Everyone's favorite part of the SDLC, testing. Yeah. Let's hear it for testing. Woo! And of course, Firebase has several things new to talk about in this space. First of all, one of the things that as we learn more about AI and we build more AI apps, we know that applications that use AI need different kinds of testing. AI Testing Agent, which is part of Firebase Studio and Gemini Code Assist, systematically tests your applications by simulating adversarial attacks, and it also measures and benchmarks your LLM performance while it's doing it.
So at Firebase, we are not only thinking about how you test the AI models you use, but we are completely redefining how you test your full application. Available today in private preview, the App Testing Agent uses Gemini to create tests for your mobile applications using natural language that then you can run in a multitude of physical and virtual devices. All you need to do is specify the goal for your test, and the agent will figure out where to tap, how to scroll, and what text to enter to accomplish that goal. Let's take a quick look at it. All right, so I built this application, which is a way of reinventing the way users search for travel, right? Instead of doing the location search and dates and whatnot, they use a prompt to tell us where they want to travel, right? I want to test this application, but most importantly, I want to automate the testing, and I want to make sure that the tests are reliable. And every time I change my UI, I want to make sure that my tests don't break. So for that, I'm going to use our app testing agent. So I'm here in the Firebase console in our product called App Distribution, and I have this tab for test cases. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write a test case. So I'm going to call it find me a trip to Spain. And I'm going to use natural language search to tell the agent what I expect the agent to do. So the first step is that pick the AI option. The second is enter a dreamy prompt about the trip to Spain. The tool lets me provide hints to the agent. So, in case that it doesn't know what to do, we help them move forward. So I'm going to tell the agent, hide the keyboard, and click submit. And as the last step is from the list of results, pick the second one, unless there is only one available. And the success criteria is let's say, knowing my app is the first day of the itinerary shows. So as simple as that, I can define a test case for my application. I'm going to save it. And the next step is to run it. Our app testing agent lets me pick from a multitude of virtual and physical devices. In this case, I'm testing against a physical Pixel 9 Pro that is in our data centers, but you can build from a multitude of other devices available. So I'm going to scroll down. I'm going to leave this test running, but this can take a minute. So let's look at one of the previous results I got. I go to the details, and I can see step by step how the agent navigated in the scripts. So for example, where it tabbed, what data I used, how I used my hints, how it created the dreamy trip definition, and last but not least, how it got to use that definition to pull results. Look at all the steps it went through, and I didn't tell the agent how to do this. It is something that the agent figured out by its own. And the last step, I'm going to jump to the last step, goal completed, day 1 of the itinerary. Pretty impressive. All right, let's go back to slides. Asha, we are in the home stretch here. We built and prototyped a beautiful application. We tested it. Now, how do we make it available to the world so it turns into the next unicorn?
Well, Firebase has stuff for that, of course. Let's talk about Firebase app hosting. Firebase app hosting is our opinionated serverless web hosting solution for modern full-stack web frameworks like Next.js. These full-stack web frameworks make it easier for developers to build really cool applications and get the benefit of things like server-side rendering that improves SEO, reduces initial load times, and many other things that we want. And you get to do it all in JavaScript. But there's always a but. To deploy one of these is way more complicated than what I do for my blog, which is shove a bunch of static files at a CDN and call it good. To do this, you actually need a build step to build those static files. You need a server running for your server-side rendering, and you still need that CDN to serve all the files you create out to the community, out to your audience and your community. You kind of need it all, and you need it all hooked together in a pipeline. And that is what Firebase app hosting does for you. It does all of that. We launched Firebase app hosting to GA at Next, but we did not let off the gas. Firebase app hosting has a bunch of new features, including deploying from the local Firebase CLI, so you don't have to configure GitHub or pushing to a source control to trigger a new build. We also added Terraform support, something that a lot of folks were asking for, so you can now build and deploy your own container image using Terraform. And we have automatic configuration of the Firebase SDKs in the emulator suite. That was a bunch of words, so let's talk about what it means. This means that if you're running your app locally using the app hosting emulator, you also can have the emulators running for other Firebase services you use, like Auth and Firestore. And those emulated services will be used automatically instead of production, because we don't develop against production, right? Right, OK. And of course, Firebase app hosting seamlessly integrates with Firebase Studio, which is what you saw me deploy to earlier. So, cross fingers, drum roll, can we switch back over to my machine for another demo? It rolled out successfully, and I can show you this. We've got a live app running on Firebase app hosting, and still get my AI suggestions. Woo! It's a deployment. But this is the part I love. It gives me information about how many requests I've had. And yes, I did actually try a couple on stage while Seba was demoing to make sure we had some traffic. And it also gives me really important information that I want as a developer who's running an app that people are using. It gives me information on the errors that I'm seeing, the classes of errors, the number of requests. And I can get details on all of this in the Firebase console. And that is what I really love about Firebase Studio. We started with an idea. We prototyped with AI. We went to code mode. We talked about the ways we can test, including things like AI testing agent, which are available in Firebase Studio, and app testing agent. We deployed, and now I'm running in production, and I have access to all the information I need to monitor and keep my app successful. And that's what I love about Firebase Studio. It really has everything start to finish, and then back again to start for a developer. It supports the entire SDLC. And it worked. I love when the demo works. So let's go back to the slides, because we have a couple minutes left and a couple more things to show y'all.
All right, let's go back to slides. And speaking of seamlessly integrations, today we are announcing Firebase MCP support. The Model Context Protocol, MCP, is an open standard designed to enhance the capabilities of AI agents and large language models. It acts like a universal remote control or an USB port for AI applications, standardizing how they connect to and interact with external tools, data sources, and services. Now, you can use the Firebase MCP server from the CLI and use it to access the power of Firebase services from your favorite agents, and soon from Firebase Studio 2. That's all for now. If you want to learn more about the things we presented here today, do not miss our video-on-demand sessions. Or if you are here in person, please join us in our Cloud Q&A space. And as always, don't forget to visit our blog.
you.